We just had our first trade deal announced. Is this the all clear? Not quite. Let's talk about it on the weekly update. Okay, friends, let's talk trade deals. Then what? Here's what you need to know. First up, a first trade deal has been made. What does it tell us about the future, though? Let's talk about it. First up, we're going to look at the market, though. This is the way we've always been looking at it. Red is the S&P 500. Orange is the 50-day moving average. Purple is the 200-day moving average. And what do you notice? Well, from the lows in that meltdown immediately after Liberation Day, we've now not only retaken the range that we had prior to Liberation Day, but we're over our 50-day moving average, and it looks like we want to threaten on the 200-day moving average, coming at it from the underside. What does this look like? Well, it looks pretty positive to me on the market side of things. I think there'll definitely be some congestion as we work through the 200-day moving average. What was previously support is going to become resistance, so I wouldn't be surprised if we bump our head here quite a bit before we get through it. But I think there's good reason to think that the market will move through the 200-day moving average and then move higher, maybe even up into this range, 5,900, 6,000. And the reason why is because of everybody that blew out here at the lows. And so because of this news panic, I think what's going to happen is there's a lot of people that, maybe touched their investments, maybe made a quick reactionary decision that now they're going to have to unwind. It's going to take them some time to do that. But the higher the market goes, the more likely it is that people are going to, unfortunately, have to unwind blowing out of their trades here. We did get some good news, or at least it's being presented as good news this week. The US and UK unveil a framework for a trade deal. It was pretty light on details, but essentially what we ended up with was sort of a 10% flat tariff on goods coming from the UK. And this was at first hailed as a positive, hey, we're going to get trade deals on a lot of different things. But as I started to look at the details, I'm actually a little bit skeptical. After this deal has been announced, things look a lot tougher than I actually would have guessed. And here's why. What does it all mean, trade deals, then what? Well, the good news is we got a trade deal done with the UK. That's positive. The bad news, well, the UK is one of our closest allies, and we have a trade surplus with them. So we actually sell them more stuff than they sell us. And the tariff rate was still 10%. So conceivably, I think that this represents the floor. This is the best possible deal that can be cut. And this is a trade surplus nation, one of our closest allies. Trade deficit nations, nations that actually make more stuff and sell it into us, they're probably not going to get this deal. So this is, on the one hand, it seems pretty positive. Oh, look at this great deal. But when you start to dig into the details, it doesn't look good at all. In fact, I've actually got a little bit of foreboding at this deal that was struck. What are the deals going to look like from the trade deficit nations? Not only the ones that have tariffs, not only the ones that have non-tariff barriers, but also a trade deficit. I think they're going to end up with worse deals than this. The administration has also, I'll talk about this weekend, there's expected to be some news this weekend, but the administration has been floating a quote-unquote Chinese deal framework to mostly yawns. So they've been floating, maybe we're going to cut Chinese tariffs to 80%, and then just recently this afternoon I saw 55%. And this sounds like news because if we're up at 150%, 80 sounds like a big cut, or 55 sounds like a big cut. The market really hasn't been engaging with any of that because I think for the most part, it doesn't change the mechanics of what's happening here, which is big businesses will be able to absorb this tariff and they'll be fine. Small businesses probably don't have enough of working capital sitting around to have their input costs increase 80% or 150% or 55% or whatever these numbers are. So they're probably still in a bind anyway. So I don't know necessarily if it's going to be the complete embargo that 145% tariffs would be, but for the most part, the 80% or the 50% that they've been floating has gone over sort of like a lead balloon. My take is what all of the news this week tells us is that pre-tariff economics are off the table. All right, so we're never going to go back to the point in time before Liberation Day. Whatever that world was, it has ended. And my only question is, does the market know this? So I think that the market is in a positive phase here simply because of the mechanics of what happened around Liberation Day. I think there's a lot of people that blew out of stocks that are begrudgingly going to have to buy them higher. And so I'm pretty positive on the market, at least here in the immediate term. As I start to look into Q3, Q4, and into next year where these tariff deals will start to bite, I'm starting to get a little skeptical and a little uneasy. So what do I think? Well, I think there's good stuff coming to us up front. I think we want to squeeze as much juice out of the orange of this bounce and rally as we possibly can. But then as we start to get to the midpoint of this year and as we start to get into the fall, don't be surprised if I start talking about us taking some cover and waiting for some fallout. So there you go, trade deals. Then what? Well, I think good things at first, and then, after that, I think it gets a little bit more challenging. So there you go. That's the weekly review. I'll see you next week for the news review. Take care. Have a great weekend. Okay, friends, that was the video. Hope you liked it. If you found it informative, good, entertaining, I'd love if you could scroll down here beneath the video and give me a like there. It helps us out with the algorithm. And then if you want to be notified first of anything new that we upload to the channel, if you come over here, click subscribe, you'll be the first to know as soon as we upload anything. Appreciate it. See you soon.